I should have gotten in my car and driven away. But something about the kid, the sheer, stubborn, righteous anger of him, maybe I wanted to test him, to show him the brutal reality of the world and watch that light in his eyes die away. Today on the Comic Book Report, Spider-Man Noir. Stick around and check it out. Greetings, webheads. My name is Dominic, and you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And recently, in the world of comic book news, I heard that Sony is trying to produce a Spider-Man Noir series over at Amazon Prime. I'm curious to see what comes of that, but it had me thinking, it's time to reread this bad boy and produce a review. And while Spider-Man Noir is currently out of print, you can find other great Spider-Man classics over at the channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. Use my code, TheComicBookReport, at checkout to get $2 off of your order today. Using my affiliate code and links will give me a small commission, but it's a great way to support the channel. Thank you for considering. Now let's dive into today's review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by David Hine and Fabrice Sapolsky, with illustrations from Carmine Di Giandomenico. The issues in this volume were published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2009. The series itself is set in the Marvel Universe, Earth 90214. The volume itself collects Spider-Man Noir, issues 1 through 4. And finally, this digest-size paperback comes in at 112 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a brief spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the entirety of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at my Spider-Man Noir collection. This is about digest size, so this is smaller than a trade paperback, smaller than traditional comic book single issues. I will do some comparison shots so you can get a grasp of the size and scale of this. You can see the stylish spine. I really like the black and white look of this paperback. Really nice collection. I know Marvel released a handful of these, but for the purposes today, this is the first volume of Spider-Man Noir, the first 4 issues here. They did make a sequel with, I think, the same creative team, Spider-Man Noir, Eyes Without a Face. I haven't had an opportunity to read that volume. I would love to. I know they also had a complete collection, and there's been subsequent sequels and volumes in more modern times as well. A quick look at the glued binding on this guy, nothing too crazy, a bit of gutter loss here, but still just really happy to have this collection. And now that I've given you a look at the binding, we will transition to some of those size comparisons. I think first I'm going to show you what this Spider-Man Noir digest size collection looks like next to a standard size trade paperback. Standard size trade paperbacks are the size of the comic book single issues themselves. And then after that, I'll also show you a comparison next to an oversized collection, so oversized hardcovers and omnibus format. This does not include the size of absolutes or some of the bigger library editions, but these are some of the most common formats, so you can get a scale and size idea. I'll do a couple more side-by-side shots, so again, you can get a better idea of what you can expect should you try to seek out one of the out-of-print copies of this volume, maybe on a used market or things like that. Still a really great little collection. It's certainly easy to read this small format. I read it laying down in bed, which is really nice. No added weight or issues there. Now I'll go ahead and do a comparison next to another digest-sized collection I actually got this month from DC Comics. This is Batman Little Gotham Calendar Days. I was surprised to find that that's actually even smaller than Spider-Man Noir. I don't know what it is about these little digest-sized collections, but they're pretty funny. They're little. I don't always love this size, but again, to have Spider-Man Noir, really, really excited. For those unfamiliar, Marvel did a whole line of these Marvel Noir books set in a different Marvel universe, kind of playing up some of the crime noir genre. Really fun little standalone series. Some had sequels. There were more than what's seen here. This is just my collection that I picked up a couple years ago. If you'd like to see a review on any of these, let me know in the comments below. Again, just a ton of fun from Marvel Comics. While I don't like the smaller digest size, it is kind of evocative of sort of the pulp, small paperback collections. You could read a lot of actual fictional noir prose in. Very, very fun. Now let's go ahead and dive into the collection proper as we jump into Spider-Man Noir. Now, some of you might have had your introduction to Spider-Man Noir in the film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Some might have played the video games. I think it was Shattered Dimension that maybe incorporated Spider-Man Noir. I think that's where I first heard about him, to be honest with you. But the comic book was first written back in 2009. Very fun idea. This is an alternate Marvel Universe set in the Great Depression era, and it has so many elements of what makes a fantastic noir, a kind of gritty crime genre that I've always had a taste for personally. Throughout this collection, we have some hard-boiled first-person narration from Ben Ulrich, a reporter at the Daily Bugle. We have a gritty, moody, atmospheric setting, and a handful of deeply flawed and brooding characters. I really think that they did a fantastic job at making this world feel absolutely immersive and believably noir. In this universe, Peter's Aunt May is painted as kind of a socialistic, on her soapbox, political disruptor in this sort of Hooverville, Depression-era ghetto. Peter is kind of this up-and-coming, sort of revolutionary-minded youngster who's so downtrodden but angered by the circumstances, by society, and by the loss of his Uncle Ben that's still fresh in his mind. This district of New York is completely run by the Goblin, Norman Osborn, who's sort of painted as a gangster. In his employ, he has members of the Enforcers, he has Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, Kraven the Hunter, but his whole crew is kind of painted as a mix between carnival freaks and kind of just mobsters. So he rules the town, he pays politicians, legal representatives, law enforcement to be in his pocket, and it's kind of heavily implied that he is linked to the murder of Uncle Ben, though Peter doesn't have conclusive ideas as to what exactly went down. Early in the story, Ben Ulrich, again a reporter for the Daily Bugle, intervenes during one of Aunt May's political rallies and kind of gets in the way to help protect young Peter Parker from some of the Goblin's goons. From there, Ben Ulrich kind of takes Peter under his wing, first trying to dissuade him from some of his kind of revolutionary ideas and activism, but also kind of testing him, also kind of seeing this kind of righteous anger in his eyes, and he tries to kind of help him find a way. But we sort of find out that Ben Ulrich himself is involved some way with the Goblin. We have Ben Ulrich taking Peter into a speakeasy that is run by Felicia Hardy, the Black Cat, who is sort of this flapper, Depression-era, prohibition, speakeasy person. It's a really fun fit for Black Cat in this universe. Her interplay between Ben Ulrich and herself, as well as her and Peter, it's just really entertaining, and I really liked that aspect to it. Again, I think including a speakeasy during this Depression-era story also just flushed out the immersion of this world. As the story progresses, things get really out of hand. Ben Ulrich is murdered, Peter Parker is bitten by some kind of spider and is sort of having hallucinations of some kind of spider creature. He finds that he has the ability to shoot these black spider webs from his hands, he has heightened abilities, and he dons sort of a trench coat and mask, goggles, and he starts roaming the streets as Spider-Man, now trying to sort of avenge Ben Ulrich and finally take down the Goblin. As the story reaches its climax and eventual resolution, Spider-Man Noir takes down all of the Goblin's henchmen for the most part. Ultimately, he decides not to kill the Goblin, who is actually then taken down by his own Kraven the Hunter and a gang of just crazy spiders that overtake and kill them both, I believe. It's a lot of fun. There are some twists and turns throughout this as well, but that's sort of the broad strokes of this story. I really enjoy it. It is a darker-edged Spider-Man. One of the things, in addition to his powers, he also carries a revolver. He does actually use lethal force with that revolver within the storytelling, taking out the Vulture to protect Aunt May in spite of her protest. She doesn't believe that heroes, air quotes, should be using guns because then it makes them just like these other cowards. Again, it's really complex, gray, dark, And I really liked that. Kind of having the addition of a Spider-Man who does lethal force with a gun and patrols in the dark and has this kind of darker costume. It's just edgy, and again, it plays to those crime noir genre. And I just think it works. This really does work. While it is Peter Parker, you definitely do feel like this is not the 616 or Ultimate Universe Peter Parker. This is his own person. He's a social activist. He's an up-and-comer that's in just such a toxic place that's run by gangsters. And he finally has his shot. He's finally empowered, and he's trying to solve mysteries and generally seek justice. And I think that that makes this such a compelling read. I think that in 4 issues, we really have a great sense of storyline, a very, very great character-driven narrative. We have a lot of moody atmosphere, and it's really well paced. I never felt rushed, and yet I felt like everything was satisfactorily tied up by the end of the storytelling, with just enough of a tease to lead into a potential sequel, which I know they did right. My only drawbacks for this collection, I wish we had a standard or oversized format, maybe sewn binding and some glossy print paper. I do think the mat was really beautifully made for this collection, the matte paper stock, but again, would have preferred glossy myself, but still a great collection. I believe the complete collection they released with this and The Eyes Without a Face, I think is at least standard size. But other than some of those minor quibbles with the formatting or edition, this is a really great collection. I absolutely loved it and would recommend it to any fans of Spider-Man and alternate universe Marvel stories. Toward the back of the collection, we're treated to some extras, some cover art, and some sketch work. Really fun to still see this, even at such a small collection, to have some of these extras, a very cool addition to the end of the book. If you've read Spider-Man Noir or the rest of Marvel Noir, let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to get some other perspectives on this era. I, for one, overall, really enjoy what I've read of Marvel Noir. I think that this collection and Daredevil Noir are probably at the top of my list as far as what I've enjoyed from what I've read so far, but let me know what you think in the comments. And now that we've finished today's collection, all that's left is to give Spider-Man Noir a grade. For a well-paced and brilliant alternate Spider-Man story that captures all the best elements of both Spider-Man and the noir genre, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Spider-Man Noir an A. This little book was surprisingly character-driven and very immersive, a really rich sense of place, and the dialogue and internal narration was pitch perfect. I love the character choices and the interpretations within this Depression-era world. I really enjoyed Spider-Man Noir when I first read it, and I loved it even more upon reread. This is a cherished collection that I hope to upgrade one day should this ever see print again. A must-read recommendation from me for all Spider-Man fans out there, but let me know what you think, and if you're planning to watch the Amazon series someday. And until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, have a good one.